Dr. Arash and Dr. Craig here from the Prehab guys. Today we're going to talk about tight hips. And so tight hips can be from a lot of different things. We're going to break it down today though. So first things first, let's talk about hip motions. So the hip moves into three planes of movement. The first one is hip flexion and hip extension. So this is hip flexion. When Craig goes into this hip flex position here where his knee comes into his chest, and then here's hip extension. And we can't show the hip extended position because the table's in the way, but this is hip flexion and hip extension. The next is hip abduction, where your hip comes out to the side like this, and then here's hip adduction, where your leg comes inward into this position here. So this is the frontal plane of movement. And the last one is the transverse plane of movement, which is the rotational plane into hip external rotation, where your hip goes into this position, and then hip internal rotation. Craig actually has a lot of internal rotation. People usually don't have that much. So this is external and this is internal. So those are the three planes of movement that the hip goes through. Here's an easy way to stretch the hip into all three planes of movement. Let's come on up, Craig. This is also called the world's greatest stretch. We'll show you guys and cue you guys through this whole little sequencing here. So we'll have Craig start on his hands and knees position in this downward dog position. We'll start with the right leg here. So you're gonna bring your right leg up and towards the outside of your right hand, just like this. And now what he's gonna think about is driving the elbow towards the heel. That's pretty good. Most people can't get down that far, but that's what you wanna shoot for. Elbow all the way down towards the heel. Stay there for a few seconds. I usually recommend 5 to 10 seconds, a full deep inhale and then a full deep exhale. Once you're good there, let's straighten out the right arm, Craig. And now you're gonna rotate open towards your left side, driving the arm into your right leg a little bit. Yeah, so this will get the right groin opened up here. And this is where you should feel it. You may feel a little bit in the mid back too, but really the goal is to get that hip adductor area opened up. You can bring your left hand back. And now let's go to the right. So you're rotating open to the right. Now with this variation, I want you to lean into the right hip a little bit. So you're actually pushing into that right hip so you get a little bit of the outer hip. Yeah, there you go. And then rotate open. Good. And you should feel this on the outside of your right hip.
Oh yeah.
There you go. And then we'll bring the right hand down on the outside of the right hand. Now we'll push back into a hamstring stretch. So you're going down, there you go, right in the back here. And if you need to with any of these, I have a foam pad sometimes for people, where if they can't get into this full position, I'll modify all these movements with a foam pad, but Craig is pretty flexible, so I'm having him do it without the foam pad. Last one is gonna be a hip flexor stretch. Now you're gonna come up here into this hip flexor stretch position, reach up towards the ceiling. And if you want to, you can lean away a little bit as well. And this will open up this entire hip flexor region here. So that's the whole flow. Let's do it on the opposite side just to even Craig's hips out a little bit. And we'll do this a little more in real time. So left leg up. Drive the left elbow down towards the heel. Good. Now we'll go left elbow straight, left arm against the left leg, right arm rotates open towards the ceiling, groin is opening up here. Hold for a few seconds and then return, and then we'll switch sides. Left arm opens. Remember, with this one, we're shifting a little towards the left as well, outside of the hips getting stretched. Now we'll bring this hand on the outside of the left foot and then push back into a hamstring stretch. Good. There you go. Hold for a few seconds, and then we'll come up to a hip flexor stretch. There it is. And that is the world's greatest stretch. Now, after you dynamically stretch your tissue, good, you've improved flexibility for a short-term period of time. Now, not until you actually activate in those end range positions will you maintain those gains, those mobility gains that you just made. So now what we have to do, some end range activation. My legs are stiff. Okay, this is a challenging one. I don't start everyone out with this, but this is a good bang for your buck hip activation drill. Start in a half kneeling position. I like this foam pad just to give some support to the bottom knee. Now, this dowel is just for balance as needed because it's not supposed to be a balance exercise. So now you're going to bring your knee up towards the ceiling, activating those hip flexors here. Good. And then you're going to bring this leg out, all the way out, and now rotate your leg internally, your hip internally, kick that foot up towards the ceiling and all the way back towards me. Keep the heel up. Yes, perfect. And then let's rotate back forward. Good. Craig does a good, so stop, that was 1 rep. Now, with this, you want to keep your body upright as much as possible. This is a common, everyone's going to do a little bit of this, shift away just to open up the hip. But the key is keep your body upright. Head towards the ceiling the whole time. Almost all the motion should be coming from the hip. Let's try this again. So knee up towards the ceiling. Good. Rotate your leg out towards me. Good. Instantly rotate. The heel is going to come up towards the ceiling and all the way back. Squeeze the glutes here. Good. And then rotate forward again. Yes. Out. All the way forward. Good. And that's rep 2. Now, what we'll do with this is usually about 5 reps, very slow and controlled. So Craig, if you want to try this again.
Make me work harder.
This is hard. No weights needed with this. You're just doing body weight, end range activation. Good. That's good. And as you do this, you'll feel oftentimes it gets easier and easier because that neuromuscular control and that connection piece is becoming easier to find.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me. Okay, so what we went through today is talking about hip mobility and hip ranges of motion and the different planes of movement. Then we went into the world's greatest stretch, which showed you how to stretch the hip into every position, and then follow up those mobility gains that you made with this activation drill. So that's it for hip mobility. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, comment below with any other videos that you want us to talk about. Cool, thanks guys.